here. There we go. I've almost forgotten before. Can't do that.
No, you got it. You got it.
Cool.
How you doing today? Good week so far?
Dude, yeah, not too bad. Busy morning. We're working with a new designer and he's on top of his game and it's making me work a little harder because he's so good at what he does. I love it when I run into people like that. They're so good at what they do. Well, one in the design world, I'm not very good. I don't have a very creative mind when it comes to creating like packaging design. I always have to outsource that. But this dude has so much experience and he's just going.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Keeping you on your toes. That's good.
Yeah, it's a good team.
How are you guys doing?
Not bad. Busy start to a short week. I know we were off Monday and stuff, but it is busy for a short one.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good. Yeah.
But things are going well. Yeah. We appreciate you coming on. This is Colin. So this is my podcast partner.
Nice to meet you, man.
Hey, nice to meet you too, Colin. Nice.
We went to school together, and he runs a nutrition and rehab and all the above business. He works with people on movement and
a lot of performance and
optimizing performance pretty much. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. I love that stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah. When I was researching you, I was like, oh, we're about to really get along here.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah. And with those questions, I'm not sure if you had a chance to go through them. Those are more of like to guide us. Like I know some of them kind of they kind of tie into one to another, but I also want to make sure that you have the authority and the freedom to talk about whatever you want and whatever order you want. And ultimately, Jose, you get like final approval on this too. So like we'll record this and then we'll send everything to you. So you can kind of listen through it and see how it listens. And we'll send you like show notes too about like what you talked about at each time interval. So you can kind of read through those too, make sure that, and we'll type up like a bio about you too. So we'll send everything to you. And then once you approve, we will release. So
cool. Sounds great.
Yeah. Anything goes. People ask if they can curse. You can say whatever you want here. So we're all good.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you want me to get in closer with the camera or is this is fine? You can.
Yeah, I think you're good right there, man.
This is perfect. Yeah. Your audio is coming through really clear too. So yeah, we're all good there.
I just got a new mic. A couple weeks ago. So
that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. It's nice when someone on the other
wasn't cutting it.
Yeah, it's good when someone else on the other end has a mic and I'm like, oh yes.
Yeah.
So happy when someone's got a mic. Yeah.
All right, so guys, feel free to just start this and I will follow your lead.
Okay, cool. So usually we like to kick things off, maybe just give our audience a quick background, who you are, kind of how we got here, and then we'll get in the weeds in between.
Yeah, sounds great. So my name is Jose Azambuja. I am originally from Peru, but now I'm currently living in the US. Running a company called NovaLife Nutriments. And it's a company where we help companies and influencers launch products into the market, fully funded with an incredible team behind them, ready to create the next generation of brands.
That's great.
And I know that was very high level. And I know I started from Peru. This is just some short background. I came here. I grew up in Peru. I lived there until I was about 6 years old. And then my parents decided to come to the US. That was like the thing to do. That was the fad, come to the US. At least for Peru, it was. They jumped on the bandwagon with a ton of my family. But unfortunately, just about 90% of everyone ended up going back because the language barrier, they couldn't get accustomed to tradition, the way that we did things here. But my family stayed because me and my sister were so young, we could adapt to it. Whereas my other cousins, they were in their teens or 20s, and they just couldn't get around to feeling comfortable with the culture. So they ended up going back. But my one cousin, his family also stayed because they were just about as young as we were, which was great. So I always had they were the only family I ever had here. Then I went to school for a year in Pennsylvania. Then I moved to New Jersey and just went through the grades. I went to technical high school. And that's one of my friends was going to Drexel, a good friend of mine. And I decided to also go to Drexel University just because the engineering was great. When you're from Peru, you only have three options: either be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Everything else doesn't matter. But luckily I liked engineering. I liked, as a little kid, I mean, sure, I put things together, but I was into technology a lot. So that worked out great. And then actually while there, Drexel has a co-op system. And during my first co-op, I got into J&J Ethicon. And that's where I met Tim.
Yes, sir.
Surprisingly, yeah, it was cool. Because you get to meet everyone who's about your age, and you don't
Yeah.
really, most schools don't have internships or co-ops like that. So you don't get to experience that. But I had the pleasure of meeting Tim and bonding there a little bit. And it was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And during that time, like, when you were at J&J, like, did you envision going into like a corporate working style, or did you already have like entrepreneurial aspirations like while you're in school? Or, like, when did that kind of fire burn, or has that always been there?
Yeah. I mean, I gotta be honest. I still have a little notebook that I would jot down all of my ideas. Well, I must have spent 50% of my time at work thinking about how to start a product or start a side hustle or a business.
Yeah.
I still have all the notes. So I think it's always been in me. At least because I spent a lot of time on YouTube back in those days, and the algorithm hit me with the Gary V stuff and all those things. Now, mind you, I was just learning, so I wasn't sure how to filter out a lot of content internally. But it did get me thinking, what would it be like to have your own product? That was more of a product, not start a company. I just want to invent something. So I have a little notebook where I would spend a lot of my time just coming up with ideas. I actually forget what some of them were. They were so silly. Because you don't know what's possible in the beginning.
Right.
Hit us with one.
then-
What's
What's
one of your hit us with one of your ideas? What's something that
I think I was into meal prepping at the time a lot. So I wanted, and I didn't always have access to a microwave. So I wanted like a self-heating Tupperware.
Oh,
Like a portable self-heating Tupperware.
that's not bad.
And
that's good.
It's not bad. But you can't have something that creates enough heat to heat food and have it be compact. It's very difficult. I looked up this one company that had done something similar. It wasn't electronic, but rather it had a self-heating bag. I forget what the technology that they were using, but you would sort of boil water underneath the Tupperware to try and heat the food. Like it's mainly for going camping. Or if you're out in the woods and stuff like that. And then I threw that idea in the trash. I was like,
No, that's good though, because sometimes, like, that's the thing with ideas, like, you can write them down and like at the present moment they might seem like out there, like not a good idea, but if you like maybe give it some time and come back with like a fresh mind, you can always like amend the idea or like make it better. And do you ever go back to the notebook and revisit it and like add any notes on anything? I'm sure you're all in on what you're doing right now, but
No, I just found that it was like sitting. I just cleaned out basically this one closet that I had here in my home, with just a bunch of stuff that I had from school. And that's where I found the notebook, and I was looking through it. And I think I did go back, and I laughed at a couple of things, but I think it's so nice to see how much your thinking has changed from only 5 years ago to now.
Okay.
Which is awesome. Yeah, because if I'm still thinking the same way, and I do this now, I have to see the world differently. Maybe not a complete 180, but develop more insights as I go on throughout the years. So it was nice to see that. It was cool. And then of course I had a second co-op, a third co-op. Those weren't as exciting. They were at Bebron and Hikma. And then of course graduating 2019 right before the pandemic, which was great.
Okay. Yeah, you timed that well.
Yeah.
No, I remember like it was yesterday, man. That final week at school, and I'm sure Tim, you probably felt the same way, right?
Yeah.
When you're like, you're not gonna see your friends anymore. But at the time, I was very busy because I had a goal to have my company be cash flow positive by the time I graduated.
Okay. So you were already on it by then.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah. I didn't apply for a single job. Like which was probably the dumbest thing I could have done. Because I would see my friends getting 100K offers. So everybody got $120,000 offer at a school. Other people were doing 80, 90. And here I am not applying. So that was a little tough. That was a tough
sure.
pill to swallow. Because I wasn't making any money, when they were getting the offers. But I did hit my goal. I was making cash. I was just under cash flow, being under cash flow positive by the time I graduated.
Okay.
Now, my expenses were very little. So, I mean, I had a very low goal. I didn't need to make, hundreds of thousands off the bat. But I was able to do it to just barely survive.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll talk more about how you evolved the business into what it is now. But initially, like when you started it, what products and solutions were you offering? What was the basis of your business when you first started it?
Yeah. The first product we ever came up with was a caffeinated energy bar. So you can imagine a Cliff Bar with 5 different sources of caffeine, nothing artificial. They were from guayusa, from green coffee beans, green tea extract. So really healthy sources of caffeine, because it was a product that I wanted. While I was in school, I didn't want to just chug Red Bulls or Monsters all the time. And I'm always snacking. Like, oh, why don't I just create caffeinated energy bar? Because sometimes I would just pop caffeine pills to stay up late to study or whatever it would be. But that's not the healthiest. And I was all into weightlifting and bodybuilding. So I didn't want to keep doing that. And that's what gave birth to that product.
Okay, good. And like, obviously you said how you're more like, you like to create the idea behind the product. You like to invent the product. Did you know like anything about like running a business, like operating a business? And if not, like, how did you kind of teach yourself, or like, how'd you kind of overcome that obstacle of like actually running the business, operating it?
Yeah. So I mean, looking at it now, I knew very little. I was completely naive. I just thought, I always looked at it from, you have a product and you sell it. I never really thought about operations, logistics, the infrastructure, fulfillment, storage, working with a co-packer and stuff like that. They just weren't on my mind. Now, the way that I went about learning it was, if I needed something, I would just problem solve on the way. Now I prepare a heck of a lot more whenever I'm launching a new product or a new endeavor. But before, it was like, I'll fix it when it comes up. Up until then, I'm just going to keep on going. And that wasn't strategic at all. That was just the only way I knew how to operate, because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
Yeah. And maybe I know we're kind of getting to the business stuff. Give us a quick rundown for our audience too of what the business is. I know you're making kind of healthier products, but maybe dive a little deeper just so everyone gets a feel for what we're talking about here.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So there's 2 sides of the business. We have the direct to consumer side and then the B2B side. I'll start with the B2B side, since that's a little bit more significant. So we're basically just making a big bet that the next generation of brands are going to be led by influencers. We think that you're no longer gonna just need cash in order to make a brand successful. You're gonna need to have an audience and a community to support you to launch a product. But what we're realizing is that a lot of influencers they're expert marketers and communicators, but they're not the most business savvy. And this makes it a little bit difficult for them to lead that 3rd generation of brands. So what we do is we come in and we are the logistics and infrastructure partner that allows them to launch a brand into the market, specifically within the health and wellness space. So if you're a fitness influencer and you want to launch your own organic plant-based protein line, you would come to us. We would do the formulation, the prototype, the manufacturing, the fulfillment, the design work, and we would help you sell to your consumers. But also, we have a really nice distribution footprint that allows to put your product strategically into stores wherever the highest concentration of followers that you have, or anywhere else. And we do this for no upfront cost. We eat the cost of launching a brand, and then we work on a percentage basis. Because typically you have so many supply chain levels, everyone's trying to maximize their gain. And at the end, launching your own brand could cost you from 50 to 100,000. It takes you a year and a half. And you don't necessarily have the most amount of margin at the end. You're left with like 10 to 15% margin, with a lot of risk. So we came in and we say, listen, there's no need to stress about the money. We'll cover that. will launch a brand in 3 months or less. And at the end, you're left with 25 to 35% margin versus the typical 10 to 15. That way it gives them all the leeway to just market the product and expand the brand, which is what they're best at. We want them to understand the business, but we don't want them to necessarily have to worry about the everyday logistics of that.
Sure. Wow. That's kind of intricate. How did you sell that to investors of eating all the cost of making it first?
Yeah. So
is that a harder sell?
It's one interesting statistic. It's $40 billion worth of supplements were sold last year in the US, but out of those 3 billion came purely from influencer recommendations. So they're already selling the product. They're already telling people what to buy, and the sales are occurring. We're simply taking the third-party product that they're recommending it and switching it with their own brand, because the sales are already there. They already have the community.
Okay.
We're not asking them to sell anymore. We're just swapping out the product.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And the goal for an influencer is never to make content forever. They're working very hard to build up their audience, so they can transition into something a little bit more sustainable. Because if you're creating content and something happens to you, that revenue stream is gone. So that makes it very difficult to be able to create a company instead of a business. Within a business, you're basically running the business. It needs you. A company can live without you. So we help them create companies, not on the content side, but rather on the product side, something that helps them exit the content world if they like, generate equity value within their own company. And ultimately, it becomes a different revenue stream with no upfront cost.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I like that, because I knew that like people do that and people transition to that, but you don't really think about like how they got from their audience to launching their brand. And that's a good thing that you're doing there. Do you guys work with people primarily on like a specific channel? Like, do you focus on Instagram, TikTok, both, all the above? Like, where do you kind of focus like the people who have the audience? What channels?
Yeah. So right now, TikTok is key. TikTok is absolutely key. A lot of the fitness influencers that got really big, they got big when Instagram was new, when YouTube was new, when Snapchat was new. The same thing is happening with TikTok right now. It's their content. No one knows about the famous Instagram fitness influencers. The people on TikTok don't know who they are on Instagram. So this opens up, just a blue ocean of new consumers ready to buy products from these influencers. So we're trying to ease that transition. But TikTok is key right now. Yeah.
We've talked about it, and I don't think I do TikTok enough. I think I'm missing out on some eyeballs on TikTok, but I'll post here and there, and I just don't do enough.
Yeah, no, it's tough because the way you create content is incredibly different. And I was telling Tim, I think that what you guys would do really well on TikTok. I think you'd blow up. Really, in my opinion. It's all about the hook. What do you say within the first 3 seconds to get them to listen? But that's all strategic. There's certain, in terms of psychology, there's certain things that you can say, like the 3 things you need to eat to do this, right? Or the 3 best pieces of advice from a business owner. 5 ways to start a successful podcast. What I learned after 187 episodes. And then you quickly give them that kind of information afterwards, and it gets shared, and the audience just goes really quickly. I'm at 112,000 followers right now on TikTok. And it was all based on just the hook and how quickly you can deliver the information, because a lot of the audience on TikTok, they don't like fluff. Give me, I want to hear what you have to say, and I want to move on. They're thankful for the information, but they don't want to waste their time.
Right. It's much more like quicker pace or fast pace, and people are trying to watch as much as possible. So that means you got to make your content even better to kind of hook them in. And that makes sense about the first 3 seconds type of thing. So,
yeah.
And like, why do you think that TikTok has been much more effective? I know we've discussed it on our show. Like, I'm sure that their algorithms and their deep learning and everything they do behind curating videos for people, that's a big part of it. But I'm sure you've studied it. You've listened to people who have taught about it. Like, what has made it so successful for you? Why do you think it's a platform that is here to stay and here to grow?
What I think is really interesting, we're just talking about it with a partner of mine as to why TikTok did so well. And I think that it had been such a long time since we saw something new. When Instagram was growing, we had Snapchat as a competitor, we had Twitter, YouTube was also really hot. So you had 4 platforms that were pulling on everyone's attention, and it made it difficult for one to explode, even though they all eventually got big. When TikTok came out, everybody had been there for a while, right? They had been playing the game for a while. I think consumers just internally felt that they wanted something new. Just seeing pictures on Instagram wasn't cutting it. And I just think that because the pandemic hit and everybody was home and TikTok was basically the new guy on the block, people just wanted to try something new. And then I think it was the perfect storm for them. I think they would have gotten bigger regardless of whether in the pandemic hit or not and people were home. But I just think that because they were the new guy and everybody was home, what else are you going to do? I even catch myself just reaching for my phone. I'm trying to stop. I put it really far away from me so that I can realize I'm stretching just to get it. Instead of the cue, hey, that you're trying to stop. I forget what like that ghost reaction or something like that. Like when your phone's not here, you'll try and like grab it even though it's not there. But that's what people do, right? They can't help but to reach for the phones. Everyone's talking about the new app and you're going to go there. And I think that it's so beneficial to be big on TikTok, not because of the content, but simply having a follower count gives you so much more credibility. Like I have a pretty good community. It's not as crazy as some other ones that I've seen, but simply saying, oh, I have 112,000 followers, sometimes just instant credibility. Whether you're trying to create a new deal, you're talking to someone else, trying to build relationships, business partners, having that just gives them a little bit of understanding of who you are and what you do. And I think it helps out in the long run business wise.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I want to get back to the business, but I also want to ask, do you have any goals yourself with TikTok? Like you built your own brand on there. Do you see that developing into something else? Like, or for you right now, is it just a matter of building a community on there?
Yeah. No, I'm known as the website guy on TikTok. So basically, I send people to some really interesting and like helpful websites that you would never know existed.
Yeah.
So we're working on a couple of projects right now to think because I've sent people to some websites and crashed the website. Just because of the way I did the video. So we think that we can do that.
You want to send some people to our website, Jose?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm more than happy to.
I'm fine if ours crashes.
So we're working on a couple of projects right now that I think could leverage all that traffic that I'm able to send in order to launch a new company or to bring awareness to something else. I think that would be cool. We're working on it right now. I don't want to give too much information on it.
Right. I was about to ask how much you can tell us, but okay.
Yeah, it's in the health and wellness space. Everything, a lot of I love weightlifting. I love going to the gym. So everything that I do is almost wellness, health and wellness centered.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'll keep you guys updated on it.
Yeah, awesome. Please do.
Yeah. So your business works with influencers primarily on TikTok. I'm sure. They already
started with companies.
Okay. What's up?
We actually started with companies. The influencer movement is pretty new. Okay. Yeah. Companies that had the budget, we would go to them and they wanted to launch a new product. We do the research. What is it that you want? And we'd make it happen. And then we realized that. And then we transition into influencers. But the model started with companies first.
Gotcha. Okay. And is it like today at this point in time, like, is it mostly like all TikTok, or are you still like, or a percentage of them companies as well that you're still working with?
Oh, the companies aren't even on social media. These are just everyday companies that are doing between like $5 or $15 million in revenue, and they want to launch a new product. We're the logistics partner to be able to do that.
Logistics. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Great. And so, like, what did it look like going about and getting funding? What was the process for that? You want to kind of share your experience with that, kind of the things you learned along the way of getting funding?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that I'll start with this. One of the best ways to get funded is to start a year ahead of time. I always thought, because I read the articles, that you could, hey, I'm ready to start raising money. and then, and then every investor is going to raise his hand saying, pick me. And that's just not how it works. You have to start building. The most important lesson that I learned is that you have to start building relationships a year, maybe a year and a half in advance prior to the ask. With a lot of the investors that we talked to, I had been giving them monthly updates for a year and a half, showing them where the company is going, what we're doing, what the vision is. And by the time I needed money, it was never a game of, oh, how do I convince them? I had been convincing them throughout the year, with all the updates and the progress. So when I needed the money, it was a quick ask. They already trusted me, and it became a lot easier. Now, that didn't happen with everybody. There were a lot of people who I just went to cold. And it takes a lot to be able to, regardless of how rich an investor is, they're not dumb. It takes a lot to be able to convince them to write you a check for 100,000, 200,000. So those weren't very successful. The cold calling ones, but the ones that I had, not on purpose, but just people who I'd built relationships with and I wanted to keep in the loop, those were the ones that actually were the ones who invested. Surprisingly so, I learned that along the way. Now I know that, and it's all about, the people that you want on your team. It's going to take a year for them to want to join you. Now they'll help you regardless of whether they invest in you or not. So you always get that benefit. But I think that it's all about, you have to convince them throughout the year. You have to win them over. And then once you really need them, once you're ready for the ask, then that's the easiest way.
Right.
I think I wish I would have known that in the beginning, because Drexel has an incredible alumni network, and for like a friends and family or a simple angel round, that would have been incredibly beneficial. But unfortunately, I didn't know that. I just doesn't happen that way. And then going deeper into it, once you do have the pitch, I've learned that only a couple of things matter. Is how long is it going to take you to become cash flow positive? I think too many people are just looking to raise a round of funding to be able to survive until the next round of funding. And that's how a lot of companies go broke. So and investors are starting to get a little bit smarter, because before it was all about just spiking the valuation. And now they're looking, how long is it going to take before this is sustainable?
Gotcha.
Right? Because if it's not sustainable, is it really a business? And if it's not a business, then what am I investing in? I think that's probably the number one question you should answer for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think asking for enough money. I think people ask for what they think they'll need, but I think you should double it. Just because,
oh my gosh,
if it's, I only need about 10 grand. Well, you might need 30 or 40. And if investors like, oh, you only need 10 grand, like, is that really all you need? Make a big ask, because they might still have it, but you don't want to go, hey, I need more money. Like this happened. Then you're just like, stop the bleeding.
Absolutely. That's so true. And I think not asking for enough will sort of let them know, how much you don't know, because you'll know that and I'm sure you guys have realized this, there's nothing wrong with the business model. It's the amount of mistakes that you're going to make to get there. It's going to be very expensive. I know I've made, oh my gosh, I've made so many mistakes. I'm dealing with one now. It's going to cost us $100,000, and it's literally just poof, gone. We decided to work with this one company that promised us everything. This was a little bit ago, and they did not deliver, and it was like a year contract, and it was it's not a good time. So we'll see how that goes. But it's mistakes like that you have to take into account to be able to survive. Because if you're making big mistakes and you don't have enough money, going back, hey, can I get an extra 100,000? Doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. Yeah.
So what's your course of action when you realize that mistake, that was $100,000 mistake? How do you go about correcting that? Like what's your plan? What's your mindset? Because some people might just freeze, like, oh my God, like I lost someone else's $100,000.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do?
Absolutely. So luckily the 100 grand is an all-in-one shot. It's over a period of time. I think the first thing is that you need to work with if you're working with another company, in our case, communicate with them, like what's going on here, why am I burning money, right? And trying to work out a plan that way. Externally, that's what needs to be done immediately. Internally, it's probably a tougher fight, right? How do you, because I've settled with it now internally, but in the beginning, I couldn't even sleep. Because 100,000 is a lot of money to just, have it disappear. So at the particular time, the amount of frustration that I felt was terrible. Now, in hindsight, I can see how I could have dealt with it better. But what I did was, I'm a big math guy. I did the math. My team's gonna get me a T-shirt that says, "Does the math work?" Because that's the first. That's the first question I ask. I'm a big numbers guy.
Yeah, it's the engineer coming out.
Yeah, it is. If the math justifies it, then we move forward, right? We focus on two questions. One is it the right thing to do, and does the math work? Usually, whenever we're starting a new endeavor, a new project. But in this particular case, ending this relationship was the right thing to do, and does the math work? So basically, I went to the drawing board. Can the company eat this cost? Can it survive even after this? And it could. So once you know that the company isn't going to go down, it gives you a little bit of peace of mind, because that's not emotional, right? It's purely the company is going to be okay.
Yeah.
Which gives me a lot more, because it's very depleting mentally. You can't think about anything else, and then everything else suffers. So once I need to create a peace of mind as quickly as possible. So math for me does that. And then afterwards, just see how can we do move some things around, move some finances so that the company doesn't feel a hit, or simply what I like to do now. $100,000 loss just means I need to close another B2B customer. Right.
Yeah.
Or like a single location makes us $15,000 a year. That just means I need to close 8 of them. So now we go all hands on deck to close 8 more. That way we make up for a mistake.
Makes sense.
I like that. Okay. Yeah. Does the math work? I like that.
Does the math work? That's it.
Yeah. Sure. The math's a big part of it, but I'm sure as well, as you've created these partnerships, whether it's with investors, whether it's with vendors, anybody, and internally as well, I'm sure you've learned the ability to read people and understand who's a good business partner, who's not a good business partner. What through all that, what are some of the things that you've learned in terms of building those relationships, and what are some of the key characteristics that you look for in people before you dive into a long-term partnership with them?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a really good question. What I've learned is that you're going to have number 1 guys and you're going to have number 2 guys. Number 1 guys will never work for other number 1 guys. They'll work with them, but not for them. I noticed that I was bonding really well with people who were just as ambitious and aspiring as I was, and they wanted to start their own companies, and I always wanted to bring them on the team. But it never worked out, because if you're like me, you're not going to want to work for me. You're going to want to do your own thing.
Yeah. Number ones don't work for number ones. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So it became one, I had to shift my thinking around that, we have to find partnerships to work with them, not necessarily, him under me or even within the same company, to be honest, which was a little bit hard to accept, because these guys were so high caliber. It's like you want them on your team. Holy moly. Then there's number 2 guys, which I think are probably even harder to find. There's more number 1s than there are number 2s. And number 2 guys are operators. You're the vision, but they can execute like no one's business, which is the Steve Jobs and the Wozniak story. Steve Jobs is the number 1 guy, but it's impossible without Wozniak, because he's the one who developed the technology. I was just watching a video where the number 2 guys need the number 1 guys less than the number 1 guys need number 2, because they have the technical skill sets. So I think that finding a really good partner that understands, who has the same vision as you, right? They have to have the same vision, but has the mind to be able to execute in terms of operations and infrastructure, is key. So I always try to look for certain things. You know, how self-motivated are you? What projects, what do you do in your downtime? That tells me a lot. You know, what are your hobbies? Do you just sit around and watch Netflix, but you talk about, you know, doing really cool stuff? Maybe you're number one guy. Or do you literally put everything aside and you start building something nonstop in your garage? So little things like that throughout your life that I think that I'll probe around with, pretty friendly. I won't get too nosy with it. I will never master them, but I think that that's been a way to find really good partnerships. And I don't like to work with people. I mean, I hate it and I love it. My one partner, Derek, he disagrees with me a lot, but it's great. But it's great. Because I'm always agreeing with myself. So it's nice when nice when someone is able to come in and say, yeah, this is great, but this is more operationally better, because I don't always think like. So that, I mean, going about building relationships, it's, I mean, I'm a pretty friendly guy. I'm pretty open. I think with you, how we met, Tim, I think maybe we just came up to each other and started talking, right?
I think so. Yeah, it was a pretty natural, easy conversation. Yeah, I remember. You're really, really approachable,
you
friendly
were
guy.
Because you were the cool guy. Well, you still are the cool guy. So I've always been pretty friendly with people and just talking to them. And I don't, unless we are actively recruiting, I don't necessarily focus on forcing relationships. I kind of just let it flow.
Yeah.
So do you think that'll be, because I've seen and heard a lot where people don't think that strictly building a business on influencers might be as sustainable as, like, you know, still doing the emails and kind of the old school. What do you think about that? The sustainability of influencer, like for future business being a bulk of business. What's your take on that? I know you're heavy into it, but interested your perspective, because I've heard a few things across the board on people's opinions on the sustainability of it.
Sure. Yeah, and that's a great question. So one of the things, and I don't know if I clarified this perfectly, is that we are not growing. NovaLife is the logistics partner that's behind the scene, but we're helping them launch their own brand. It's their company, it's their brand, it's their product. So we're simply amplifying their efforts logistically. They're doing it in terms of the marketing. So when it comes to the sustainability of it, I think it's here to stay. At least for a very long time. I think that whenever you have a new influencer marketing, if it is a new platform of marketing, and when you find something that is effective as it is right now, because it's on average, companies who simply pay for influencers to talk about their products get a 6-to-1 ratio of money spent to what they get in return. I mean, it's even higher whenever an influencer sells their own products. Because you can only do so many brand deals before it sort of numbs your audience down a little bit. And the way we interviewed a good amount of influencers to see how they felt about it prior to launching this, and they love brand deals. They think it's great, but it does wear on them a little bit. It's like, oh, is my audience just think that I'm doing this for the money? You know, no matter how many times I say, oh, I really love this company, you know, are they really seeing through that? But the one thing that we noticed is that they never had those emotions. The ones that did have their brand already, those never had those negative emotions with promoting their own products and their own brands, because they trusted their own product so much.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, another company will tell you, oh, we do this and that. It goes through 8 sets of eyes. It's completely regulated, but you'll never know, right? Unless it's your brand. Once it's your brand, you know what's really happening behind the scenes. And you feel so much more comfortable promoting your product. It actually ends up growing into a much bigger company, simply because of your conviction when talking about it to your consumers. So I think it's here to stay for the long run. Eventually, everything gets phased out, right? Everything gets phased out, but we're making a really big bet, which is why we cover all costs and stuff like that, because we think it's worth it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay.
Good.
Cool. And we do have a direct to consumer line that I know I have not talked about, which is basically our own line of functional products, like plant-based protein. We're coming out with a basics line, selling more like bulk ingredients to companies. That's more to have a stable cash flow. for some rainy days. But the big vision is on the influencers.
Okay, gotcha.
Cool.
And in your experience with working with these brands, what would you say the most successful brands have in common? Is there anything specific that they do differently that allows them to be sustainable and be successful like post-launch?
Yeah, I think that a couple of factors stand out, specifically when it comes to how educated you are on the product. Showing your knowledge behind it. So just to give you another example of when they're recommending another product, they only know highlights, right? They use the product for a week and they try to pass on that information. You'll never understand what's really behind the product unless you build it yourself or you're a part of the process. I think the amount of knowledge that someone brings, whether it's content, videos, or even a blog, will transfer through to the audience. The ones that understand their business the most, are the ones that can communicate it the best to their audience, which you guys know that's how it plays out, right? The best salesmen understand the business inside and out. And they just don't know how to close a deal or the right things to say. So we've seen that to be one of the greatest differentiators when it comes to how successful an influencer brand is your knowledge, and of course your conviction, your energy and stuff like that, definitely amplifies it. But we think that it's how well you know your business.
Yeah.
That's great.
And that's good. Yeah. Cause people want to invest into an expert. They feel like, oh, I don't know this, I don't know that. It's like, well, I don't want to give you my money if you don't know all the things.
Exactly.
All right. See, we still got some time. Oh my.
Oh yeah.
All right.
What time is it?
So
I think you had a hard stop at like 10:30 or something like that.
Yeah. And I'm trying to find a charger. I still have some battery life, but I just moved and I think I misplaced a computer charger.
Oh,
so I'm trying to, that's on me. I apologize. But we still got some life left.
How am I doing? Do you want me to keep the answer shorter or?
We'll just keep rolling.
Perfect. You're doing perfect.
We'll keep rolling. If I gotta say interject, I will. But
no worries.
How do you think being an entrepreneur has helped you in other areas of life? How has it made you better in other areas outside of business?
Yeah, I'm a big audiobooks kind of guy, so I love listening to content more than anything. I don't even watch videos that much. It's basically all audiobooks or podcasts. And because I have so many problems that I need to fix on a daily basis, I've learned about things that I've never learned of, in a regular job setting. I would be very good at something very niche, but the broad knowledge that I've acquired, trying to build the company I'm very thankful for, because I wouldn't have known that I did not know all of these things. But I think that's been one of the best things about being an entrepreneur, at least because I love learning. I can't go a single day without learning, whether it's, just some trivia or some complex, concept about business, or psychology. I'm really big into psychology, the way the human mind works. So that's been a huge benefit of just for my own personal entertainment. It's been cool. But what was the other part of your question?
Just how it's made you better in other parts of your life. But I want to kind of tie in with that as well. Like, you have a team, you've built a team as well, and I'm sure you've learned a lot about yourself, like the way you lead people. Has there anything that you've learned about yourself as a leader too? Like, kind of.
What a great question.
Yeah.
I was just thinking back. I was just reflecting on this the other week, and I was making a big mistake for the majority of it, in terms of leadership. I was acting like a great friend and a great partner. Partners and business partners, and then friend to employees and other people that we worked with, but it was not being a good leader. I didn't realize that I did not have enough information on how to be a good leader. As a great partner, I'd cut a lot of people slack on the executive team, be like, oh, don't worry about it, it's cool, it's chill, we'll handle it, and that's great. And then the people that we work with, I was a great friend, but once again, cutting them some slack. And for the longest time, I thought that the more relaxed you are with someone, that the more they'll appreciate it, but it's actually the opposite. you need to be able to hold radical candor, right? You need to be able to hold people accountable in a way that's going to benefit themselves in the long run. It's more so you're doing it for them than you're doing it for yourself. And that's the one component that I was missing, was the leadership skills to be able to lead someone, because there's leaders and then there's those who lead. Like Steve Ballmer, I think is a great example. Steve Ballmer leads because they have the most amount of sales back in the day with Microsoft. They used, they sold the most amount of computers, but Apple was the leader in their space, despite them not having, as many sales and as many employees. So that's a huge component that I was missing that took some time to develop once I realized it wasn't there. So that's been huge, because that's been able to help me, even with just regular friendships, even within my own family. I'm the problem solver in my family. They need something done, they come to me.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, which is great. So really, being around so many people and in charge of them, I think it's really, that's the one component that I never know. I don't know if I would have realized that was missing had it not been in entrepreneurship, which is great. So it's helped me out a lot.
Yeah. So I apologize to both of you guys. I do want to get our last question in just so we have it, and then we can keep rolling.
Yep.
But my computer might take a shit here. 187 episodes, and I pulled a rookie mistake here. But we always like to ask our guests, how do you want to be remembered when your time here is done? How do you want people to remember you?
Boy, that's a tough question. I was thinking about that one. That's such a tough answer. Such a tough question to answer. But right now, my current answer right now would be is that I get a lot of fulfillment and enjoyment from bettering people's lives, whether that is financially or personally, health-wise. We're helping influencers build companies because we know that they're going to benefit from it, right? We know that it's going to change their lives, making so much more money, having a brand is going to help them, one, live better lives, but also they're going to be able to help others. They're going to pay it forward. So I think that I want to be remembered for someone that helped improve people's lives in all aspects, right? Whether it's peace of mind, just living healthier lives through better products. I think that's probably the number one goal.
That's awesome. Value first. I love it.
Love that. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. And I wanted to also give you the opportunity, if you want, to discuss some of the exciting things you're working on with the podcast with your company. Do you want to get into that or explain like what the goal behind that is and kind of what you're trying to achieve with the podcast?
Yeah. So we're starting, to add to that, we're starting a new segment on TikTok soon, which is once again health and wellness related, but we're going to start giving away free nutritional programs, free workouts tailored to a specific person so that others can learn who can't afford a personal coach, how to create their own programs as well. And we think that, people just don't have enough information to be able to get the basics down. You need a coach for maybe some more advanced things. But we're going to start interviewing people and asking them, what are your health goals? And then developing a workout and nutritional program completely for free with free supplements and stuff like that, to be able to, one, help that particular person out, but also educate others along with their goals and whatever it is that they're doing. Once again, always value first, trying to help educate people. And then for the podcast, we do want to also start a new segment where we interview business owners and talk about what is their vision for the company, how they're going to execute it. I think that I see a lot of shows where they'll talk about how did you get here, and that's for a certain type of audience. We want to go for asking questions like, okay, so you're here now, how are you going to grow? So basically based on scaling, how are you going to scale? It's what we want to focus on, because I'm not a pro at scaling either, so it's a little bit selfish too that I would get to learn. You know what I mean?
You did the work of getting them on and interviewing them. It's a learning opportunity for you too.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we have in the works right now.
Okay. Cool. And are these people who are in the health and fitness space primarily, or will you interview like multiple industries, or just focus on?
Yeah, so we're going to be expanding. We're going to be expanding a little bit. We don't want to just keep this particularly segment to health and wellness. We do want to touch other industries, whether it's
Good.
tech, logistics, infrastructure, health and wellness, of course. But we're not going to be picky, just industry agnostic.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's cool. It's amazing the kind of access you get to certain people when it's like, oh, hey, you want to be on my podcast, rather than, hey, can I pick your brain for 5 minutes? Like,
Yeah.
no one will let you pick their brain for 5-10 minutes just because, oh, I made the ask. But hey, can you do a podcast for an hour? Then you get their brain for an hour. And it's fascinating who we've gotten to talk to. But yeah, if you ever need help with getting that rolling, equipment, anything, let us know, man. We're happy to help any way we can. Introductions. We've talked to a lot of business owners that do weird stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure. No, thank you. I appreciate it. And I wish I would have had a chance to learn more about what you do, actually, because you said that you've done everything. So
I do a lot of nutrition coaching and exercise rehab. So I do a lot of kind of physical therapy type stuff. I have a pretty decent personal training side of the business as well. So everything from, I've been CrossFit, USA weightlifting, neuromuscular, done all that education. So I kind of tie everything from rehab. So if someone's in pain, low back and hip, I get them out of pain. We use corrective exercise, proper trunk. I do a lot of breath work, trunk stability and strength. And then after they're out of pain, then I start to load them with weights. So there's not a person I haven't worked with that they're not deadlifting or squatting or doing things. And then I get into Olympic lifts. I think there's a lot of good things from a power clean or a snatch, something like that, to where you create a lot of force and power quickly, but your whole body is doing work, but you're in control of every part of your movement. So
very cool. I should come to you. I'm having some lower back issues right now. Some hip misalignment actually is what it is.
Hey man, we can get another Zoom. We can do rehab remote.
Sure. Yeah.
He's really good at what he does. He's really
so
I'm sure he sounds like it. Yeah.
I go to the range with Tim, so he helps me learn how to do a golf swing, and I help him with some breath work. And
nice. I just went top golfing the other day for the first time. I've never golfed.
Yeah,
it's so hard.
It's hard. I'm terrible.
It really is. It is.
I was swinging at the air constantly. Just I don't know how you guys do, because I've seen stories of Tim just launching it into space.
Just 300 yards, there it is. 315, there it is.
Years and years of practice.
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing. I was humbled. When it comes to a new sport, like I stick to the basics, but whenever I try something new, at least for me, golf is something very new. Man, it is so humbling.
Yeah.
Because I'm just so bad at it.
But good networking opportunity at Top Golf, I'm sure.
Oh, well, yeah.
My favorite is when I've done it before too. My favorite's when you hit a ball just like on the edge and it bounces up and down on the ceiling and then the floor, and then it goes into the next bay.
That did happen. That didn't, not to me, but to a friend of mine that I was with. I don't even know how that works out.
That's one of my favorite things to happen, and I've done it. I'm like, oh, that's it's embarrassing, but it looks fun.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, so I got to keep up with that a little bit. How much battery life do you have? I don't want to.
We probably got like a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry again, you guys. I always have one in my bag, one at home for my home office, and I went to grab it in my bag and it's not there.
Yeah.
So it's rookie mistake.
Okay. Did you guys get enough content for your show?
Oh yeah. I mean, we're gonna be about an hour. So
yeah, hour's good. And we've done like with some of our guests, we'll bring them on for like round 2, just to bring them on for stuff they didn't cover before. And I'm sure there's gonna be an opportunity like that for you if you'd be open to come on in the future, kind of once you've progress more and more with the business and the podcast and any new updates. We always love having people on for a second time. So
yeah, when you launching, what's your plan to launch the show date wise?
To launch the show right now, by the end of summer is the timeline right now.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe end of summer, fall time. Maybe we do a round 2. That way you're a few episodes into the show and see how the business is scaling. And
I'm happy to help. We have a cool meeting tomorrow with a new influencer that we just brought on.
Okay.
And 2 million followers plus, and there's just nuts. So maybe we can touch up on that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Later on, whatever you guys want though. No rush.
Yeah, so we're always down to record. So we're good anytime. But yeah, maybe end of summer once you get the podcast rolling, and we'll get into all that. So cool, man.
Awesome.
Tim, anything else for Jose?
I think
We
I'm
did
good.
cover a lot.
Yeah,
We covered a lot.
we've covered a lot of good stuff. Again, we appreciate you coming on, especially I'm glad that you reached out to me last week and we were kind of able to talk through the podcast you're working on. And I appreciate you coming on short notice too on our podcast. And yeah, I think a lot of people are going to get value from this, especially like people who are trying to launch a brand themselves or trying to build a business or try to be like a healthier person overall. Yeah. And so what we'll do, we'll send you these show notes so you can read them over and listen to the episode. And yeah, we want to get this out as soon as possible. No rush on your end. I'm sure you're busy, but as soon as you give us the approval, we will we'll launch it. And you should have everything from me within the week of the show notes and everything. So
no problem. Thank you guys so much. I really
Thank you,
appreciate
Jose. We appreciate it.
This was great. Yeah. So whatever you need, just let me know and I'll get it back to you as soon as I can.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And same goes to you too about the podcast. I know I sent you over a bunch of stuff for podcast outreach, but if you want to jump on another call, or need me to send you anything and helping with the outreach with the podcast or anything related to the podcast, just let me know. Okay.
Okay. And Colin, real quick,
Yeah.
I think your email is in the email chain, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Because maybe I do have some actual questions for like being able to help my hip. So
Yeah,
maybe I should shoot
absolutely.
an email.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd love to definitely do that.
He's on the email. So yeah, you just reply.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's on there.
And then,
Right.
yeah, I'll give you my number. That might be easier to text. I'm faster with that. And then, yeah, we'll get a call and take a look at what's going on.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right,
Tim,
Jose.
you can give him my number. I think. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Cool.
I
I'll give him your
appreciate
number.
it.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Jose.
All right.
Thanks.
Talk to you soon. See you.
Bye-bye.